Hi everyone, my name is Hussein and thank you all for coming to my session. In this session, I am gonna do Tyke API Gateway demo, but before proceeding with the demo, let me provide a little information. Why do we need an API gateway? So let's say that we have lots of internal services in our company, right? After a while, we decided to expose those services to the outside publicly. And since we were using this internally, those services internally, maybe there were not authentication and authorization layer neither on any of these services. So if you want to expose those services publicly, you need to concern this security option, right? So other than the API gateway, I will provide a couple of workarounds for this without any API gateway. So let's decide if it is feasible to continue with an API gateway or not. The first workaround can be that for all of the services, you can put a Spring security. I am assuming that this is a Spring application, and then you can add a Spring security dependency to all of your services in order to put an authorization authentication layer. But as you can see, this is very hard to do because you need to apply this strategy to all of your services. Maybe you have hundreds of services, so how can you do that in a short time? Second workaround can be, so we can eliminate the first option right away. And then second option will be, you can put a Nginx load balancer right in front of your services. And then you can simply reverse proxy your request to the internal services within your company. Also, you can put a basic authentication statically, or if you want more advanced thing, you can put Luna scripting inside the Nginx. So here, again, you need to do some implementation, right? Okay. And the third option can be, you can implement another application like aggregation layer. Again, this is a Spring Boot application also. And then you can put a OAuth 2 protocol on this aggregation layer. This will be something like interceptor service. And then whenever a request comes to this service, it will be validated first. It can be authentication, authorization, etc. And then if everything is valid, it will be automatically direct to the internal services. But I think at some point, this is something like API gateway, but lack of lots of features. But do you think, is that all? Is that all with the API gateways, or to set up such an architecture? I think no, because you need to have authentication and authorization mechanism. You need to have IP whitelisting, blacklisting on some situation. Let's say that you are doing B2B, and you can say that, okay, this endpoint or this API should be accessed only by the specific IPs. So you may need this feature also. Rate limiting is an important point because you don't want to overload your system without any rate limiting strategy on your APIs. If you are doing enterprise, API versioning is very important feature here because you are not able to release a major feature and replace your current API. So as most of the time, you will need have two versions at the same time in order to support both the previous feature and the current features. Request transformation also is a good feature for the API gateways because your internal services may be some SOAP services, but you may need to expose those as REST APIs to the outside. So with a little trick, you can act your SOAP services as REST API to the outside by using request transformation. I will also provide an example within the demo. Identity provider management is also may needed within your API system. Until now, we have talked about the APIs and the API owners, but what about the developers? You have lots of services, but there is no documentation, maybe, but in API gateways, you can easily set up your develop portal, and then your developers or the external developers can easily register and then require a key in order to consume your API endpoints. I think the API gateways is more advanced than the simple workarounds. So let us start with the demo. I will use Tyke Cloud for this demo because of the simplicity. This is the dashboard component of the Tyke, and this dashboard component actually is the command center for your API management. That means you can manage your APIs, your keys, your policies, even your analytics can be manageable by using this dashboard. So let's create an API now. Here, we can only provide an API name, for example, product service. And here, as you can see, when you put a name here, it will automatically lowercase and hyphenized in order to get a unique API slug. Here, I will use HTTP bin. This is a test REST service, so you can use lots of endpoints here, and during the demo, we will use this one. This is something like Nginx reverse proxy. According to some context path, it will automatically proxy to the internal your backend services. Again, for the simplicity, I will select no authentication layer here. So I am selecting keyless authentication and save. So we have an API definition here. When you edit this section, you will see your full URL in order to call this API. Okay, when I made a request to this one, it will automatically proxy to HTTP-bin.org. So that means it is this page. So let me select another endpoint here, for example, IP, or more advanced one, anything. So when I make a request to anything, it will print this information, right? Okay. So actually, how this strategy works? When you make a request to API gateway of Tyke, first of all, it will grab your first URL path, product service. So this product service is resolved to this API definition here. Okay, we got the definition, and then Tyke knows that it will go this target URL, right? And the rest of the URL here, anything, automatically concatenate to this target URL, and then there is a simple request to target URL. That's very simple. Okay, we created an API definition here, but most of the time we will need an authentication layer here, right? I will select the authentication out token here. When you select this token strategy, you are able to provide this in a couple of ways. The default one is to providing the authorization value within the header. You can provide your token within as query parameter, or even you can provide your token or some authentication keys within your cookie. When we update this API, after this time, we will not be able to call this API endpoint because it is authenticated right now. Okay. You can see that we got 401 that is unauthorized, and you can see authorization field is missing. So that means I need to provide an authorization header here. But what about the value? Let us have a look at the value here. This time, we will see the keys section on the dashboard. Here, you can simply add a key. Here you can select your API first. Okay. So I am creating an key here, and I need to select my API first, right? Okay, let's say that this is 1 hour. So this section is very important. You will see this token, this key, for the first time, and then you need to save this to somewhere in order to make a request in the future. But in normal life, we are using Tyke admin APIs in order to generate these keys and use within our automated system. Okay, I am using this dashboard for the demo. So okay, when I provide my key, I'm able to see the response again. Let me provide the wrong. Okay, key not authorized. It is an invalid key. Okay, it seems very simple, right? I just created a key, and then I'm able to access any kind of endpoint. But there is a tricky section here, because let's say that you have lots of services, and most probably you will have lots of developers, lots of consumers, right? Let's say that you have 100 of developers using your APIs. So after a time, you decided that, okay, I need to put a quota, or I need to put a rate limit to my API, but you need to do that within your keys by editing your keys. But how can it be? You need to will you update all the keys manually, one by one, in order to update their quotas, rate limiting, etc.? This will be also very hard. So this time we will have a look at the policies, because policies helps us to define a general rule, and then during the key creation, you select just a policy in order to attach your keys to a specified policy. So here, let us create a policy. Let's say that product policy. I will leave those one as default. Again, I am selecting my service. You can select these APIs as much as you can. We have only one, so I am selecting only one. And let's create. So we have a policy here right now. I am going to create another key. This time, I will select product policy here. Okay. When I select this policy, as you can see, this field automatically populated because it is already defined within the policy. So I created another key. Copy the clipboard. Okay. We are okay to call this endpoint. This is also very simple. So the flow should be like this. First of all, you define your policy according to your rules, and then whenever you create a key, you attach that key to that defined policy first, and then once you require the specific rule to policy, simply go to there. For example, in our case, this is this policy, product policy. So I am saying that, okay, I will only allow 2 requests in 10 seconds. So you will not be able to call this endpoint, this API, other than more than 2 within the 10 seconds, right? I'm updating this one. Also updated. Okay. And then make a request. Okay. As you can see, we got this time 429. This is too many requests. So this works like a charm, right? Very simple. So in short, define your rules, create a policy, and then attach all the keys within this policy. By the way, you may have different type of policies according to your needs. At that time, you need to create several policies and then decide which keys should be attached to which policy. It's up to you. Okay. So until now, we have talked about API level. So let us talk about a bit more the endpoint side. Here, for example, you wanted to add a rule for specific endpoint, right? Here, for example, anything. If you want to add something different for this endpoint, you can provide some built-in plugins here. What can it be? For example, mock response, right? When I add this one, mock response, you can directly return custom values. For example, hello. Also, you can set custom headers here. Okay. So we have a specific configuration for this endpoint, right? And let us make another request to this anything endpoint. Okay, I need to check this. I think it is not updated. Okay, I will not add any header here. Oh, I think I am not able to update this endpoint designer. Okay, let me try another way. Okay, I think there is something different here. Okay, I will come back to this point later, and then let's continue with the versioning. So there is a question, are mock responses allowed in cloud? Yes, I have tried before. Mock responses is usable. By the way, I don't know if it is changed, but on some of my demo, was working in the cloud version. Even if it is not supported, I think it will not be listed in the plugins section. So let's continue with the versioning first. By default, there is no versioning, but you can define anything you want here. For example, I have said that you may have multiple versions at the same time. Let's say that I have version 2 for my API. Here, you can specify another host, another domain name. That means if you provide 2 as a version in your headers, the request will be proxy to another domain, okay? So if you provide an expiration date here, the request will not be accepted after this date. So I am leaving it as default. So as you can see here, we have default and div2, right? I'm updating this one. Okay, we have two version here. And when you have a look at the endpoint designer here, you will see two versions, because in order to design your endpoint, you need to select specific endpoint, right? Let us try this versioning here. Okay. It's okay. And okay. Mock response and the whitelist. Okay. Mock response is not usable just only itself, so we need to select a whitelist. Okay, no problem here. So that means here, if we use default as a version in our headers, the request will be proxied to real backend service, right? But if you provide 2 as a version inside the headers, we will get some custom response here. Where is it? Okay, let's go to and make a request. Yes, X API. Okay, so mock and the whitelist together are mandatory. We need to select that. Sorry, X API version. Okay, so we got the real response here. The request actually reached to the backend services, real services. But if I provide 2 as a version here, we will get hello world. Okay. So this is how versioning works in our system. So we will make lots of requests, right, to the product service. So let's have a look at our analytics. We have created a product service. So in total, there are 12 requests. 8 of them is succeeded, and then 4 of them are failed. As you can see this some beautiful graphs about the request and the percentage of the response type, unauthorized, rate limiting, and the forbidden here. You can also have a look at the analytic data by using some keys. Here, endpoint popularity is a good feature here, but in order to activate this one, you need to select track endpoint plugin by using within the endpoint designer. I have not selected that, so there is no data here. You can also see your geographical distributions by using your request data. Here we have requests from yes. That means some people within this webinar are trying to make a request to our endpoint. Okay. And then you can also see the error types here. And if you have a look at the logs, you can play this log section also. But you can see lots of useful information about the analytics by using this dashboard. So until now, we have talked about the API definitions, creating some authentication layers. So there is a question, I think. Yes. Kevin, you have asked the question, what do you mean by allow a customer to sign up? You mean developer, or you design a website and use Tyke API, or the normal customer? If it is a developer, yes, we will have a look at in the developer portal section. You can define as much as field you can. So during the developer sign up, they need to provide their detail one by one and then register itself. Okay. So portal management, this is a cool feature because, okay, you are developing API, there are cool features, no problem there, but what about developers? What if a specific developer comes to you and then say, okay, how can I use this API, where is the keys, etc., right? First of all, developer portal is the front end of your API structure, right? If you have a developer portal, you will see that, for example, here in Type Cloud, I'm able to open my developer portal, but there is no catalog here because I have defined nothing as a catalog. In settings section, let us start with here. Let's say that some developer trying to sign up to your system and then log in, grab some keys in order to make requests, right? This is very normal flow. You can disable, enable developer sign up login. It is up to you. If a developer sign up and they log into the system, he or she can request a key. There is no problem there, because in order to make calls, he or she need to record a key. Also, here in the sign up form, you can define any kind of fields here and add. During the sign up section, he or she need to provide these details and some mail templates, very basic stuff here. This catalog section is important. When you add a catalog, you need to, for example, you need to provide your catalog name. Let's say that product catalog, product service catalog. And then if you are exposing some API to outside by using catalog, you need to provide a policy here. I'm selecting the product policy. Product service desk call. This is the metadata of the product service. And finally, you need to attach some documentation here. So when you click here, there are 3 ways to provide detail here. You can provide your Swagger file, you can provide Swagger URL, and also if you want, you can provide some API blueprint. I will use this pet store Swagger file. I will provide this statically. If you have internal services and if you are using Swagger CodeGen, so sorry, if you are using Swagger API doc, you can automatically provide this URL to API developer portal settings in order to populate here. So I provided the API spec here and update. Okay, We have a product service catalog, documentation is okay, but as you can see, it is not enabled, it is hidden. In order to make that active, you need to click this, check this section, show API, update. So what happened here? When I refresh this page, as you can see, there is cool product service, view documentation, and request an API key. When you click this one, you will see that this API spec automatically populated, and you are very familiar with this UI. This is the Swagger UI. What else here? What about the request key section here? Most probably, you have created an application within different platforms, like Facebook, GitHub, etc. So let us say that this is payment client. I will get product data. Okay, you need to store this key again. And then in order to make a request to this API, you need to go to API catalog. You can authorize here, but on admin on Tyke Admin Cloud, I'm not able to simulate this one. Maybe this can be done automatically in another webinar, but out of the scope of this session. Simply request your key by using your developer portal, and then you can authorize here in order to make your API calls, okay? For example, if you made a request for pet ID 1, when you made a request, this API key automatically is sent to the backend services. As an admin, you can also manage this key request on your admin portal. There are only 2 developers here. Also, this is the default UI of the API catalog. So you can provide some pages, you can provide menus according to your needs. Also, you can provide your style in order to make another good-looking application here. And that's all. Okay, so there was a bonus point here about the request transformation. So let me show an example for this. In Endpoint Designer, there are lots of plugins. For example, for not anything, let me select another endpoint, which is get. This time I will select body transform. So how it works? Let's say that you have lots of internal services and they are all using SOAP structure. But you want to expose your services to the outside as a REST API, right? Okay. So as an input, let's say that there is something like this. So user wants to provide an payload like this. This is a JSON provided to your REST API. And then I will provide a template here. So what happens here, when you provide your JSON payload, this JSON keys is automatically converted to some internal variables within the API gateway. So here, in order to access the value of this key, simply put the curly brackets, and then that title will automatically access this value. So when you test this one, as you can see, it is automatically converted to a SOAP payload as you define your template here. And then when your customers can use your API endpoints as REST APIs, and you can call actual SOAP services within your internal services. This is a simple demo for the request transform. That's all with the demo. Let me check the question, if there is any. There are some questions, but actually not actual information there. How do I use Tyke to allow a customer to sign up? As I said, if you mean developer, you can. It's fine. You can edit the settings, developer portal settings, and then you can add several fields there. But if you mean the normal website that calls your API, Tyke Gateway, in order to register a user, you need to provide that within the as API params. I think that was the only question. Actually, I have no OData, but think about like this. There is a data. There are a couple of data formats. So if I have some OData, by the way, I don't know how OData structure is, but for example, if you provide me some structure, I can easily convert them by using the template, transformation template. This is a simple transformation operation. But as an input, you can provide a JSON data or the XML data as specified here. For example, you cannot provide a CSV data. Yes, you can easily test. It's very easy to sign up and use the cloud, by the way. You can use Tyke API Gateway on-premise, on cloud, or you can use that as hybrid. There is a Docker Compose file within the internet, so you can find and just Docker Compose up within your computer and use locally also if you want. By the way, if you have any other questions different than this, you can reach me every time by using this this email address. Okay, I think this question can be answered very well. Some of our type stuff. How about Yara? Maybe you can have a good answer here. The latest question about the license.
Hi. So the question is about the difference between the open source version and the license component of Tyke, right? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. So the gateway is the open source that is available for everyone. What we sell is the way to manage gateways. So you can manage by yourself 1,000 gateways, or you can use the dashboard to manage them. And what the dashboard is doing, it's either via UI or REST API calls. It doesn't matter, but you still manage via the dashboard all your gateways. And what it's doing hot reload. So you don't need to restart the gateways. You don't need to take care of updating the database, the Redis, or the flat files. It's all being done and being taken care of via the dashboard. And that's the closed source that we are selling. Does that answer the question? I think that I'm not a professional with regards to Apogee, but what they sell is different, completely different version of what the open source is. So what we sell is the dashboard. The gateway that you get for free or when you pay is the same gateway, exactly same code, completely. We have one release for the gateway and it applies to any product.
Also, there are some multi-data center property within the licensed version, right? Yara?
Yes. So we have a solution for enterprises. If you want to have more than one data center, then it doesn't work well with Redis across data centers. So what we have is a way to manage all your data centers, and in each data center you can have as many gateways as you want, and it's all being managed from one place. And the MDCB, this is the enterprise solution. It was built in a high availability mode, so it's much it's for big organizations with lots of requests per second. That's the best solution because it gets the analytics very quickly. It clears the database. It updates. Everything is being done quickly and with high availability in mind. But can I just say as well that if you want to test the version that we sell, so for one node we give the license for free. So if you go to the website, you just get click on Get License, and that's it. You can get a license. You can get the code from Package Cloud or wherever you want, or Docker Hub, and put the license in the configuration file of the dashboard, and that's it. It's working. But this is only to manage one gateway. We start charging from 2 gateways. So we have two versions, 2 gateways or unlimited gateways. Any more questions? Did I miss any question?
I think no.
Sorry?
I think no. We have reviewed all the questions here.
So about, maybe I missed it, but I see something about OAuth. So you can set up it can be an OAuth server, and you can create access token to be used with the APIs that you create. And if anyone wants, we can set up another demo to check it, or find on the documentation on our website, or fire up a question on community.
This was the very basic demo session, so we will arrange more advanced one for each component in the future. Maybe we can discuss there.
Maybe you can just show the link to our community.
Yeah, let me share.
You know it? Because that's the place to ask questions if you are not a client. And we do our best to answer everyone.
This is the Thai community.
Yeah. So you can also search for lots of information here. There are lots of there were a lot of questions about OAuth and JOT. So you can check here. And I saw a question about the portal, I think. So maybe I misunderstood, but when you want to sign up, who asked it? Kevin asked about it. When you sign up to the developer portal, you have there a login and a register. So you choose the register, and then the developer needs to register, and you can set up the fields that you want your developer to give you, and you can also redirect him to another URL, which is the billing system. So that option exists, and only after that, after they register, they can request for a key to be used by the APIs.
Okay. And yes, for the previous question about the OAuth, during the key creation, you can provide key rules, or you can provide type policy in order to get a built-in rules for your key. For most advanced details, you can have a look at it here. There are some useful information and examples about the OAuth too.
You choose, when you create an API, you can choose this method.
Yes.
And that's one of the methods. And when you create it, it creates your client ID and secret. And this way you can generate access tokens. And in the future release, we'll make it even easier to set up.
And one question, Yara, which building system does Thai support?
So what we support is not a specific system, but what you need to define. If you go to the settings of the portal, I can show you where you put a URL of the system that will take the details, and that system also needs to send us an API, send us back an API call saying that it's approved, because we send it with a special ID, request ID, and once we get back that request, we can generate key and email the user. So if you go to the admin, to the dashboard again, I can show you where you do that.
Oh, okay, let me show you.
Yeah, so if you open portal management.
Okay, here.
Under settings.
Yes.
You can choose, if go up.
This one.
Yes, redirect. So if you click if you tick the box here, and you put, do you have any Apache or anything that is running at the moment?
I think no.
So anyway, if you put here any URL, once you register, it will redirect the user to that URL. And this is how it works. Does that answer the question about the billing? I saw another question about about the OAuth. You said
yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
One question about the session recording. Yes, it is recorded, and you can watch in the future.
There, yes, answered. Yeah. Okay.
There are a couple of questions about comparison, but instead of comparison, because most of the API gateways supports cool features about the API gateway management, but I think you need to have a look at also a very important feature about the performance. So you can have a look at the benchmark explanation of the Tyke API gateway. There is a detailed explanation of how it supports, how is the performance of this. Maybe it will be very helpful to decide or select your next API gateway.
Do you have questions about it?
I think there is no other questions, so maybe we can finalize this session. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. And yes, thank you, everyone. And keep in touch. We will meet in the near webinars about the most advanced topics about each component.
Thank you.